okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, are you really in New Zealand?
Well, the truth is I'm from Christchurch, New Zealand, but right now I'm residing in Durango, Colorado.
Okay, so not quite from New Zealand.
Well,
But no worries.
yeah, I live there and here, but yeah. Anyway, first of all, Soren, I hope your son and family are healing well. I noticed your haircut as soon as you turned on, and I was like, oh, that's so sweet to join so everyone feels the same. So yeah. And then Jon, thank you so much. This has been amazing. It's been really, I feel very blessed. It's been like a retreat for me this 7 weeks. So thank you. Wow, I can't believe I'm talking. So I have 2 questions. I'm just trying to feel which one is the most alive right now. Just trying to ground my energy as well.
Take your time.
Yeah, thank you. So I think I want to talk about my son. I have a 15-year-old boy, and sadly I'm in the middle of a divorce right now, and which is of course taking its toll on him as well. I guess my question is, when he was young, he was very much of the energy of young Joseph that we saw a while last week, I think. He was very open and compassionate. And I used to take him, you know, to Buddhist family camps at Spirit Rock and Taramandala, and he just loved that world. He was really, and then in his freshman year at high school, he did this massive switch where he's trying to fit into the culture more. And, you know, instead of being that sort of open-hearted, he sort of started playing American football and toughening up, and he sort of, it feels to me like he's lost that beautiful part of himself. So I guess my question is, how do you keep children connected to their inner wisdom when the culture is, for example, his father just brought in one of those gaming machines that we've managed to keep out of our house, and now he's playing shooting games, and so my house is full of the sounds of gunshots, and there's all this kind of cultural stuff that I just can't stand. And I just want to know, how do I as a parent keep him connected to his inner wisdom?
Wow. Let me just drink that in. And I think all of us can drink it in. And I think a lot of people who have teenagers can relate to that. So very often kids have to try out a lot of things that that terrify their parents. You probably did the same thing. There's a certain way in which your connection to him is the most important thing. So rather than to try to sort of make him the way you would like him to be, to not play American football or to not, you know, sort of shut down or whatever, relate to the place in him where you can still connect. Now that may be very difficult at certain ages and stages of time. It's like, you know, boys may be rejecting their mother or rejecting your culture or, you know, any number of different things to try to figure out, one, how to belong, which is like probably the most fundamental thing that all of us humans want more than anything else, is to actually feel like I belong. And it's very hard to figure that out in American society at the moment. Unless you fall into some kind of group or other that is kind of like, has a kind of culture that sometimes is very fraternal and acts out in ways that can be really alienating to everybody that's not part of the fraternity. And so as a parent, I mean, I think the only thing we can really do in the end is to try to stay connected. First, to not lose your own mind in the process, but to stay grounded and to also find ways to connect with him while he's living at home, because that's not going to be happening for all that long. So that he knows that you're here for him and trustworthy in a certain kind of way. And I'm not sure you can do any more than that. But that doesn't mean that if you can't do any more than that, that his future is just hopeless and that you're gonna lose him or the world will lose him as a human being. Of course, if he's doing extremely dangerous, life-threatening things, then you may have to actually act in a certain way and sometimes, sort of execute I'm not sure that's the right verb, but an intervention of some kind, but it doesn't sound like that's anywhere near the place where you're at, but just a sense of like losing this beautiful, innocent boy that you could, connect with in a very beautiful way, who seemed to share all your values and it was so copacetic and so on. And all of a sudden, who is this kid? Well, in a certain way, welcome to the club. And this is part of, we need to grow as much as our children so that they can actually feel like they have room to be who they are, which is not who their parents really aspire for them to be. And if we can connect with who they actually are, and they can see that we're okay with who they actually are, then they know where to go when, they need reliable connection, when they need some kind of real emotional support. And that fraternal order that the kids get into and that boys often can get into, there's a lot of beauty in it as well. There's a lot of very interesting stuff in it and a lot of extremely potentially dangerous stuff. So you just have to, I'd say it's not so easy as a parent, but to monitor how things are unfolding as best you can, but mostly you be you and you be grounded, because that's contagious. Nobody doesn't recognize when you're so at home that you're not going to give him grief about things that he thinks you probably should be giving him grief for. And then all of a sudden you're trustworthy in a way that he might have been rejecting even a moment before. It's a huge challenge. I mean, there's no answer to these kinds of things, but it really is a mindfulness practice. You're involving, you're parenting as mindfully as you can.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, every one of us had to grow into our own adulthood, and I'm sure our parents were like mortified by some of the choices that we made.
Yeah, thank you. That's that makes a lot of sense. And there's a little part of me that feels a little embarrassed even asking the question, because once you started illuminating it, I mean, when you look at the wider sense of what's going on, it's such a small problem as well. So
Yeah, but our children have a special, they are central in our lives and their health and their well-being and their mental health. And also they're now in a world where, they can't play football anyway. I mean,
exactly.
they can't go to school. How is this going to change this entire generation of youth?
Yeah.
No matter what age they are at this particular thing, we don't know how that's going to unfold. So the most important thing for us to do, I keep saying this, is not lose our own minds
Yeah.
when we most need to have the full dimensionality of our minds. I mean, true wisdom, true love, true compassion, and true intelligence is multiple, so that we can hold the space of not knowing because they know that we don't know.
Yeah.
And if we're pretending we do, then they won't talk with us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they won't trust us. And, you could say rightfully so.
Yeah. Thank you, Jon.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. I'm sure you're asking that question for many, many, many thousands of parents at the moment. I mean, on top of everything else, now we have this. And it's just going to really complicate things enormously.
Yeah, because at this stage, they so want to belong and their friends are so important. And I understand the rejection of the mother. I mean, I get that. But yeah, just watching the sweet person going in this other direction, I'm like, oh.
He's still the sweet person.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you see the sweet person, then in a certain way, it affirms the sweet person in him, you know. But sometimes, as we all know, I mean, to find the sweet person in ourselves is not so easy a lot of the time. We can be very, very down on ourselves and give ourselves a terrible, terrible time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, are not necessarily shining examples for the younger generation. So the more we actually tune that instrument, the more they can't help but pick up on the tuning, because it's embodied, it's felt. It's, you don't never say a word about it. They just feel like you're okay. And so, you know, you're when you're okay, you're de facto trustworthy in key moments.
Thank you, Jon.
I'm not saying it's not incredibly hard work and a lot of anguish. It is, but you know, we ask for it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But the best teacher I could have ever had. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
They're like live-in Zen masters, and the practice and the training only gets harder the older they get.
Yeah. Thank you.
Until you let go and let be.
Mm-hmm.